The screams were coming from room 309, so loud, so sharp, that they cut straight through the thick hotel walls of the old Silver Crest Inn, one of the top 3 haunted places to stay in Las Vegas. Emma, Jordan, and Louise froze in the hallway as the door to room 309 began to rattle on its own, the metal handle twisting like an invisible hand was trying to break it off. A cold wind blew past them even though the hallway had no windows. Then, right in front of their eyes, the door swung open by itself. Inside, the lights were flickering fast, on, off, while a tall shadowy figure stood in the corner of the room. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just watched them. And when it slowly lifted its hand and pointed directly at Emma, she felt her legs go numb. "Don't move," Jordan whispered, but his voice cracked. The shadow stepped forward. Then everything went black. Hours earlier, none of them expected their trip to Vegas to end up here. They were just 3 friends from Denver who wanted a fun, cheap weekend. They had seen videos online about the top 3 haunted places to stay in Las Vegas that will scare you. And like most people, they didn't believe any of it. It was supposed to be a joke, a funny dare. The list online mentioned 3 locations. Silver Crest Inn, known for ghost sightings and disappearing guests. The Old Desert Lantern Motel, abandoned twice because staff refused to work nights. The Fremont Shadows Suites, where guests reported hearing crying under their beds. The friends decided to try all 3 in one night, filming everything for fun. Emma loved scary things. Jordan pretended he wasn't scared. Louise definitely was scared but didn't want to look like the weak one. Their first stop was the Silver Crest Inn. The place looked ancient, with cracked signs and windows that seemed to stare at them. The lobby smelled like old books and dust. The man behind the counter didn't smile, didn't blink much, and spoke in a slow voice like he was tired of warning people. "You kids shouldn't stay here," he said. "Not on the 3rd floor, not tonight." Jordan laughed it off and asked for a room, on the 3rd floor, of course. Everything felt wrong the moment they stepped out of the elevator. The hallway lights buzzed, the carpet had strange dark stains, and every door had scratches, deep ones, like someone had been desperately trying to claw their way out. But things only became strange when they got to room 309. Louise stopped walking. "Something's breathing in there," he whispered. Jordan rolled his eyes. "Dude, stop." But Emma heard it too, a slow, heavy breathing sound coming from behind the door even though no one else had checked into that floor. Still, they went inside. At first the room looked normal, just old and dusty. They put their bags down and started recording silly videos. Jordan sat on the bed, Louise checked the bathroom, Emma stood by the window. Then the lights flickered for the first time. A soft whisper floated across the room. None of them could make out the words. Then the whisper turned into a growl. The door behind them clicked locked on its own. And when the closet door slowly creaked open, Emma saw a hand, thin, gray, and shaking, reach out from the darkness. She screamed. Jordan grabbed her arm. Louise stumbled backward and knocked over a lamp. The lights exploded. The room went completely dark. Something moved fast across the floor. Something touched Jordan's leg. And just as Emma reached for the door to escape, a deep voice whispered right beside her ear. "You're not leaving." She froze. The air turned cold. The shadow stepped out of the closet. And right as it rushed toward them, everything ended in a blinding flash of white light. When the blinding white flash faded, Emma, Jordan, and Louise found themselves standing outside room 309, except none of them remembered running out. The hallway was silent now. Too silent. The flickering lights had stopped, and the air felt warmer, almost normal. But something was wrong. Room 309's door was now slightly open, swaying gently, like someone, or something, had just walked through it. Louise backed away fast. "Nope. Nope. I'm done. I'm not going back in there." Jordan tried to act brave, but his voice shook. We have the footage, right? Let's just leave." Emma didn't move. She stared at the door like it was alive. "Guys, I think it wanted us to see something. Before Jordan or Luis could drag her away, her phone buzzed. A notification popped up, new video saved. The preview showed a still image, but none of them had filmed it. It was a picture of all three of them sleeping inside room 309. Except they had never slept there. And behind them in the photo stood the tall shadow figure, its face leaning over Emma. Emma dropped the phone in shock. How, when? Jordan grabbed her hand. We're leaving. Right now. But when they rushed to the elevator, the doors refused to open. The buttons didn't light up. The doors were stuck, like someone on the inside was holding them closed. So they ran for the stairs instead. Each step echoed louder than normal. Every floor felt colder. And when they passed the second floor, they heard footsteps behind them. Slow. Heavy. Following. Luis didn't look back. Go faster! They pushed through the exit door and sprinted outside to the parking lot. The sky over Las Vegas was bright with neon lights, but somehow, the area around the Silver Crest Inn felt darker, like a bubble of shadows sat over the old building. They jumped into Jordan's car, locked the doors, and breathed hard. But the car wouldn't start. Jordan turned the key again. Nothing. Emma whispered. Something's not letting us leave. Just then, a soft tapping came from the back window. Tap. 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 Luis slowly turned around, and saw a handprint forming on the glass from the outside. A gray, bony hand, exactly like the one they saw in the closet. Luis screamed. Jordan finally got the engine to roar and sped off, leaving the Silver Crest Inn behind them. Only after they reached the busy Las Vegas Strip did they stop. Crowds of people, bright lights, loud music, everything felt normal again. Safe. Human. Jordan parked the car and they breathed for a moment. We're not doing this anymore, Luis said. No more haunted places. I'm done. Emma shook her head. We need to understand what happened. That thing didn't just scare us, it followed us. Why? What does it want? Jordan slumped against the seat. Emma, please. Can't we just go home? She opened her phone again. The photo from room 309 was still there. But now, there was a second photo. This time, the shadowy figure was standing behind them inside the car. Emma covered her mouth in horror. No. No, 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 this isn't possible. Jordan grabbed the phone. We didn't take this. How is it doing this? Luis looked around the parking lot nervously. We need help. We need answers. Maybe the next place on the list knows something. Jordan stared. You want to go to another haunted place after this? Emma nodded slowly. The video online said the Old Desert Lantern Motel has the most clues about the spirits in Vegas. If these places are connected, maybe we can stop whatever this is. Jordan hit the steering wheel in frustration but knew she was right. They needed answers, not more running. So they drove toward the Old Desert Lantern Motel, the second haunted place on the list, an abandoned roadside building with broken signs and boarded windows. As they approached, the wind grew colder. The road became empty. And when they finally pulled into the dusty parking lot, the motel lights flickered on by themselves, even though the place had no electricity. Luis whispered, Guys, something's already waiting for us. And then they heard it. A loud banging noise from inside one of the motel rooms, like someone was trapped and fighting to get out. The banging inside the Old Desert Lantern Motel grew louder, boom, 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 like someone was slamming their fists against the inside of a door, begging to be let out. Dust fell from the old wooden beams above them. The broken neon sign flickered a sickly green glow across the parking lot. Emma, Jordan, and Luis stood frozen. Nope. I'm not doing this again, Luis whispered. His voice shook so hard it barely sounded like him. But the banging didn't stop. In fact, it sounded like it was getting closer. Jordan swallowed. We just get the evidence, then we leave. 5 minutes. 5. Emma stepped forward slowly, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The website said this motel was the second haunted place in Las Vegas. People heard voices, saw shadows, doors opening by themselves. But this? She pointed toward the source of the banging. This wasn't mentioned. They approached room 7. The door was old, cracked, and swollen from years of desert heat, but something behind it was forcing it outward with impossible strength. The wood bent like it was breathing. Boom! Louise jumped back. No! No! That is not a human sound! Emma raised her flashlight and aimed it at the peephole. I'm just going to look. Jordan grabbed her wrist. What if it looks back? She hesitated. Then, the banging stopped. Silence. Thick, heavy silence. They all leaned in slowly, listening. Then a low whisper came through the door. Help me! It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It sounded like someone in pain, someone scared. Luis shook his head violently. That is how every horror movie starts. We're not opening that door. But Emma's heart was beating fast. What if someone's actually inside? Jordan looked at the dusty ground. There were no footprints leading to room 7. None leaving it either. Nobody's been here in years, he said. If someone is inside, they didn't walk in. Before they could decide anything, the doorknob on room 7 started turning, slowly, back and forth, like someone was testing it from the inside. Jordan stepped back. Okay. Nope. We're leaving. This was a terrible idea. But Emma was already recording. The camera light glowed on her face as she whispered. If this spirit followed us from the first place, maybe whatever's in here knows why. Suddenly, the door stopped moving. Everything froze. Then a loud crack split the air. The door frame snapped. The door swung open. But the room inside wasn't dark like they expected. It was glowing with a faint blue light, shining from the cracked walls. The air inside shimmered like heat waves, even though the motel felt cold enough to freeze breath. What is that? Jordan whispered. Luis slowly stepped forward and shined his light inside. Instead of an empty room, they saw a figure sitting on the bed, a man, thin, pale, and still. His clothes looked old, dusty, and torn. His head was bent down, like he'd been waiting there for a very long time. Emma whispered, Sir, are you okay? The man lifted his head. His eyes were dark and hollow, like 2 deep holes. And when he finally spoke, his voice sounded like it came from far away, echoing through the room. You shouldn't have come here. Emma froze. Why? The man slowly stood up. His movements were stiff, unnatural. They followed you, from the Silver Crest Inn. The shadow, it's angry. It doesn't want you to leave Las Vegas. Luis started backing away. Nope. I'm done. I'm leaving this city tonight. But the man continued. There is one more place. The crying place. The Shadows Suites. You cannot escape unless you finish what you started. Emma's heart pounded. Finish what? The man pointed at her. You woke it up. Jordan grabbed her arm. We have to go. Right now. But when they turned to run, the door behind them slammed shut, hard, shaking the whole building. The man on the bed began to fade, his body turning into mist. You must listen before it finds you again, he whispered. The lights flickered. The walls shook. A loud screeching sound came from outside, like metal being dragged across the concrete floor. Luis's eyes widened. Guys, something's out there. Then the motel lights went out completely. The entire building fell into darkness. And from somewhere in the hallway, the shadow from room 309 let out a deep, angry growl.